Her parents abandoned her at the orphanage. Years later they regretted it. The air was heavy that morning. A silence too sharp for comfort. The cries of a newborn echoed softly in the corner of the room, almost swallowed by the emptiness. Her mother stood by the doorway, trembling, clutching a bundle wrapped in faded cloth. Her father's eyes shifted restlessly, unable to meet hers. He muttered words she could barely hear. "We have no choice, we cannot keep her." Her mother's arms tightened around the child as if the mere act of holding her could change fate. But poverty is cruel. It carves into families, stripping away choices, leaving behind scars that never heal. The orphanage gate stood tall and rusted, a place that smelled of damp walls, boiled porridge, and forgotten dreams. She pressed her lips to her daughter's forehead. The infant stirred, eyes half opening as if sensing her mother's fear. A tear slipped down her cheek. "I'm sorry," she whispered, the words nearly breaking her. The father knocked. The door creaked open, revealing a tired woman with gray in her hair, her apron dusted with flour. She had seen this before, too many times. Children handed over like broken promises. The mother begged, her voice shaking, "Take care of her, please, she deserves better." The woman nodded, her eyes heavy with pity, but her hands steady as she received the child. The baby whimpered, tiny fists reaching out. Her parents stepped back, their shadows stretching against the walls as if pulling away from her forever. They turned, walking down the path without looking back. The cries grew louder, but the world around them seemed deaf. Inside, the baby girl was laid in a wooden crib beside others. Her small chest rose and fell, unaware that her life had just been marked by abandonment. The orphanage was not kind. Days were long, meals scarce, and laughter short-lived. The walls echoed with both giggles and wails, stories of loss carried in every corner. As the years passed, she grew. Her name was given by the caretaker who first held her, a name that meant hope. She carried it like armor, though she never knew where she came from or why she had been left. Every night, she lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering if someone somewhere missed her. Children came and went, adopted by families who promised better futures. But she remained, perhaps too quiet, perhaps too thoughtful, perhaps too easy to overlook. Yet, within her eyes lived questions no one could answer. She began to notice things. The way the world outside the gates seemed larger, brighter. The way visitors looked at the children with measured glances, weighing futures as if choosing fruit at a market. Sometimes she asked the caretakers, "Did my parents love me?" They never answered directly. Some avoided her gaze. Some simply said, "You are loved here." But she longed for truth. On the other side of the village, her parents lived in silence. They tried to forget. They tried to convince themselves it was necessary. But forgetting is not easy when the sound of a baby's cry lingers in memory. Her mother often woke at night, hearing the phantom wails. Her father sat by the fire, staring into the flames. Lost in guilt he never voiced. They told themselves they did the right thing, that she was better off. But deep inside, regret began to grow like weeds. Years later, word spread through the village about a girl in the orphanage. A girl with eyes too wise for her age. A girl who spoke little, but carried a presence impossible to ignore. Her parents heard the whispers. They knew. Their hearts pounded as truth pressed against the walls they had built. Her mother's hands shook when she kneaded the dough. Her father's chest tightened with every mention. The silence between them grew heavier. Meanwhile, the girl began to feel a pull she could not explain, as if something unseen was reaching for her. She started to dream, dreams of faces she had never seen, of voices she could not place, dreams of warmth, followed by a sudden coldness. She would wake, clutching her blanket, heart racing. She did not know they were her parents. She only knew something was missing, and that emptiness grew with her. One evening, while the sun bled into the horizon, the caretaker sat beside her. "Do you ever wonder who you are?" she asked softly. The girl nodded. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Every day." The caretaker's eyes misted. But she said no more. Some truths were too heavy to carry all at once. But the winds of fate do not wait. Her parents could no longer bear the silence. The mother broke first. She wept, confessing the ache in her heart. The father listened, his jaw clenched, shame burning his chest. They decided to see her. Not to speak. Not yet. Just to see. They walked the familiar road back to the orphanage. The gate still rusted. The walls still weary. And there she was, playing with the other children. Her laughter rare but radiant when it came. The mother gasped, clutching her chest as tears spilled freely. The father looked away, afraid to face the reflection of his choices. The girl glanced up for a moment, her eyes brushing theirs. Something stirred within her, recognition without memory. Her heart skipped, but she turned back to her game. Her parents stood frozen, torn between stepping forward and fleeing. They left quietly, but the weight of regret followed them home. That night, the girl lay awake again. The dreams returned. This time, the faces were clearer. A woman's tear-streaked cheeks, a man's trembling hands. Her chest tightened as if she knew them. Though she could not say why, she whispered into the darkness, "Who are you?" But no answer came. The story does not end there. It was only beginning, because destiny has a way of circling back. No matter how far one runs, no matter how long one hides. And the past was stirring, ready to find its way back to her.
The girl stirred restlessly in her bed that night, her heart caught between fear and yearning. The dreams would not leave her. The faces of the man and woman lingered, their eyes wet with sorrow, their voices trembling though no sound came from their lips. She woke, clutching her blanket tightly, listening to the silence of the orphanage. Children shifted in their sleep, some whimpering, some sighing softly, but none of them could feel the storm raging in her chest. She turned to the cracked ceiling, whispering once more into the night, "Who are you?" The question slipped into the shadows, unanswered. But somewhere, not too far away, her mother lay awake as well. Her pillow was damp with tears, her body curled inward as if trying to shield herself from memories that cut deeper than knives. Her father sat outside, staring into the dark horizon, the fire beside him burning low. He clenched his fists, the smell of smoke clinging to him, the weight of his decision pressing harder with every breath. They did not sleep, for they had seen her. They had seen the life they had abandoned. And now the thought of her eyes, so deep, so questioning, haunted them. Days passed, but the weight did not lift. The mother began to linger near the road that led to the orphanage, as if drawn by unseen strings. She carried baskets of vegetables, pretending she was only passing by, but her eyes always drifted toward the gate. Once, she saw the girl carrying a bucket of water, her small frame straining under the weight, her feet dusty from the path. The mother's chest ached, her throat tightening as she fought the urge to run to her, to relieve her burden. But fear chained her. Fear of rejection, fear of truth, fear that the years had built a wall too high to climb. Meanwhile, the girl noticed the presence of strangers who seemed too familiar. She caught glimpses of the woman by the roadside, of the man standing silently at a distance. Her young mind wrestled with questions. Who were they? Why did their eyes always find her, then quickly turn away? The orphanage carried on as always. Children laughed, cried, quarreled, and played. But for her, the world had shifted. It was as if invisible threads were tugging at her, weaving patterns she could not yet understand. One evening, while helping sweep the dusty courtyard, she paused. Her broom rested against the wall, and she leaned against it, staring beyond the gates. Her heart beat faster when she saw the woman again. This time, the woman did not turn away quickly. She stood still, frozen, her eyes shimmering with tears. The girl tilted her head, curiosity stirring. She wanted to step closer, but before she could, one of the caretakers called her name sharply. The moment broke. The woman wiped her eyes quickly and walked away, her figure dissolving into the twilight. The girl's chest tightened. She felt something deep inside, an ache she could not name. That night, her dreams returned, stronger than before. She saw herself as a baby, wrapped in cloth, her tiny hands reaching upward. A woman bent over her, pressing a kiss to her forehead, whispering words she could not fully hear. A man's hands trembled as he stood beside her. And then the image of heavy gates closing.
And then, the image of heavy gates closing. She woke with tears staining her cheeks. She pressed her hands to her face. Shaken. The caretaker noticed her troubled state and sat beside her the following day. "Child, you look weary," she said gently. The girl hesitated, her lips trembling. "I see them. In my sleep. A man and a woman. Are they real?" The caretaker's heart clenched. She had carried the truth in silence for too long. She reached for the girl's hand, squeezing it gently. "Dreams have roots, my child," she whispered. "And sometimes they grow from memories you do not know you carry." The girl's eyes widened. Memories. The word tasted strange on her tongue. She turned away, her heart racing, her mind swirling. Outside, the parents wrestled with their torment. The mother grew frail, her guilt carving deep lines into her face. The father withdrew further into silence, his voice barely heard in the home that once rang with laughter. Every evening, he sat at the fire, staring into the flames as though they held the answers he lacked. At last, the mother broke again. "I cannot bear it," she cried, her voice cracking. "She is mine. She is ours. And she walks in this world not knowing who she is." The father closed his eyes, his jaw tightening. His voice was low, heavy. "We gave her away. What right do we have now?" The mother's hands trembled. The right of a heart that never stopped loving. But he could not reply. His silence was heavier than words. The days turned to weeks, and the unseen bond between them all grew stronger. The girl began to sense more. She felt eyes on her even when no one stood near. She felt the weight of secrets pressing against the walls of her life. She began asking the other children questions. "Do you remember where you came from?" Some shrugged, some laughed, some cried, but none could answer what she longed to know. She wandered the orphanage grounds, pressing her palms against the cold stones, as if they held whispers of her past. The caretakers avoided her questions, but their eyes betrayed sorrow. And sorrow, she had learned, was a truth that words could never hide. One afternoon, while sitting beneath the old tree in the courtyard, she saw him, the man. He stood beyond the fence, his figure still and silent, his eyes locked on her. Her breath caught. She rose slowly, her feet moving as though pulled by something beyond her control. She took a step closer. Another. Her fingers brushed the fence. He did not move. His face was shadowed, but his eyes glistened. For a moment, the world fell away. The laughter of the other children faded. The noise of chores disappeared. There was only her and the man beyond the fence. Her lips parted, but no words came. Before she could speak, a caretaker called her name again. She flinched, turning her head, and when she looked back, the man was gone. Her chest ached, her hands trembling. That night, the dreams came again. This time, they were clearer. She saw herself as a toddler, standing on unsteady feet. She saw a woman kneeling, arms open wide, tears streaming as she called her name. She heard a man's deep voice, choked with sorrow. And then, darkness. She woke gasping, clutching her chest. The storm finally broke. The girl could no longer hold her silence, nor could her parents keep hiding in shadows. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with fire, the girl stood by the gates of the orphanage. She had felt their presence again. This time, she did not wait for them to vanish. She stepped forward, her small hands gripping the iron bars, her voice trembling but firm. "Why do you always watch me?" The words pierced the quiet air. Her parents froze. The mother's lips parted, her breath caught, tears spilling before she could speak. The father's shoulders shook, his silence crumbling under the weight of her question. The girl's eyes burned with both fear and longing. "Do you know me?" she whispered. Her mother could no longer contain it. She stumbled forward, pressing her hands against the gate, her voice breaking. "Yes, yes, my child. We know you. We have always known you. The girl's knees weakened, her body trembling. The world seemed to tilt as her heart pounded in her chest. Her father stepped closer, his face lined with years of regret. We are the ones who left you here, he said, his voice raw. We are the ones who broke our own hearts. The girl's breath caught, her chest tightening as though the air had turned heavy. Why? She demanded, her voice shaking. Why did you leave me? The mother wept openly, her tears falling onto the earth. We were poor. We were afraid. We thought we were giving you a chance at a better life. But not a day passed that we did not regret it. The girl's hands slipped from the bars, her body trembling as anger and sorrow collided inside her. You abandoned me, she whispered. The words stung sharper than any blade. Her father lowered his head, his voice breaking. Yes, and we carry that shame every day. We never stopped loving you. We never stopped aching for you. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the sound of her mother's sobs and the girl's uneven breaths. Children inside the orphanage had gathered, peeking curiously, whispering among themselves, sensing something powerful unfolding. The caretaker stepped outside, her face solemn, her eyes knowing. She had seen many reunions, many heartbreaks, but this was different. She looked at the girl gently. The truth has found you, child. What will you do with it? The girl's throat tightened. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. She wanted to fall into her mother's arms, and at the same time push her away. Her heart warred with itself. Finally, she spoke, her voice low, trembling. If you loved me, why didn't you fight for me? Why didn't you come sooner? Her mother reached through the bars, her fingers brushing the girl's arm. Because we were cowards. Because fear chained us. And every moment we stayed away, it hurt us more than words can say. The girl's tears fell freely now. She had dreamed of this moment, longed for it, dreaded it. She had wanted answers, but answers brought pain. Her father pressed his hand against his chest, his voice steady though his body shook. We are not here to erase the past. We are here to beg for your forgiveness. And if you cannot give it, we will still remain waiting, hoping, loving you from wherever we are. The girl stared at them, her heart thundering, her tears wetting her cheeks. She remembered the nights she had whispered into the dark, asking who she was. Now she knew. She was theirs. She was the child they abandoned. And yet, she was also the child they could not forget. Slowly, she stepped back from the gate, confusion and pain still swirling within her. The caretaker touched her shoulder gently. You do not need to decide tonight. The heart takes time to heal. But know this, truth, no matter how heavy, is better than silence. The girl nodded faintly, her eyes still locked on the two figures beyond the gate. The parents stood there, broken yet hopeful, tears streaming, waiting for a sign. The girl took a trembling breath. I need time. Her mother sobbed, nodding quickly. Take all the time you need, my love. We will wait. Her father's voice cracked as he echoed, we will wait. The girl turned and walked back into the orphanage, her steps slow, her heart heavy with both sorrow and a strange new warmth. She did not look back, but she felt their eyes on her, their presence lingering like shadows that refused to leave. Inside, the children whispered eagerly, asking what had happened. But she said nothing. She went to her small bed, sat down, and pressed her face into her hands. Her tears came hard and fast, but beneath them was something else. Something fragile. Something like hope. The days that followed were filled with tension. Her parents returned often, waiting by the gates, never forcing their way inside, never demanding. They simply waited, bringing baskets of food, blankets, and small trinkets they hoped she might one day accept. The girl avoided them at first, too overwhelmed by the storm inside her. But slowly curiosity drew her near again. She began to linger at the fence, watching them from a distance. Sometimes they smiled softly, sometimes they wept, but always they stayed. The caretaker encouraged her gently. Wounds do not heal overnight, but they do heal, if you allow them. One evening, after weeks of silence, the girl finally stepped closer. Her voice was quiet, uncertain. What is my name? The one you gave me. Her mother's face lit with both joy and sorrow as she whispered it. A name the girl had never heard, yet it wrapped around her like a forgotten lullaby. Her heart trembled. She repeated the name softly, tasting it like something sacred. And in that moment, a part of her wall crumbled. Her parents wept openly, pressing their hands against the gate, whispering prayers of thanks. The girl did not rush into their arms. She did not forgive everything at once. But she began to come closer. She began to listen. She began to allow herself to feel. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, a bridge began to form where once there had only been distance. Weeks turned into months. The girl still carried scars and her parents still carried guilt. But they also carried love. Love that refused to die, even when buried under years of silence and regret. One morning, the caretaker called the girl aside. Her voice was calm, but her eyes carried wisdom. Your life is yours to shape. You can choose to let the past chain you, or you can choose to let it guide you toward something new. The girl nodded, her gaze steady now. That evening, as the sun dipped low again, she walked to the gate. Her parents stood waiting as always. This time she did not stop at the bars. She stepped forward, slowly, cautiously. Her parents' eyes widened, their breath caught. The girl's lips trembled as she whispered, "I am ready." Her mother cried out, rushing forward, and for the first time in years, she wrapped her daughter in her arms. The girl stiffened at first, then slowly her small arms rose, clutching her mother tightly. Her father knelt beside them, his arms wrapping around them both, his tears falling freely. For a long time they stayed that way, broken pieces fitting back together, hearts aching yet healing. The other children watched silently, some smiling, some crying. As hope spread like fire through the orphanage, the girl whispered through her tears, "Don't leave me again." Her mother kissed her hair, her voice steady with promise. "Never again, my love. Never again." Her father pressed his forehead to hers. "You are ours. Always." The wind carried their words into the night, binding them together not by blood alone, but by the choice to love despite their mistakes. The girl's life would never be the same, but neither would theirs. For in the end, love had found its way back through sorrow, regret, and silence. And this time it would not let go.